Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling workflow automation. We've got a pretty fascinating set of tools to explore.
Yeah, 3 different takes on it, all from the Ruby world, interestingly enough.
Exactly. Think of this as, your shortcut to understanding 3 open source projects from GitHub: ActiveWorkflow, Runbook, and Danger.
Each one kind of slices the automation pie differently.
Right. From like high-level business stuff down to the nitty-gritty of code reviews.
Yeah.
Our goal here is really to pull out the core ideas, see how they might streamline your work without getting totally bogged down in the technical weeds.
And we've got the documentation, the descriptions for each, so we can see what they're aiming for.
Okay, let's get started.
Sounds good. It's actually quite striking how different they are, even though they're all Ruby-based. Really shows the language's flexibility.
So you get active workflow for like broader business processes.
Yeah, exactly. Runbook, that's more for the hands-on system ops side of things.
And Danger. That one seems focused on team stuff, code review.
Totally. Collaboration, enforcing team norms, that sort of thing.
Okay, let's dive into active workflow first. That term, polyglot workflows, really jumped out at me from the description. What does it actually mean in practice?
Well, imagine you've got different bits of your business logic, right?
Yeah.
And maybe one part is best done in Python, another needs Node.js, but your main app is Ruby.
Okay.
Active Workflow lets you coordinate all those pieces. It acts as the central hub. It lets you create these little self-contained agents. Think of them like microservices, almost written in whatever language makes sense for that specific task. And Active Workflow orchestrates them, makes them work together in a workflow.
Like a conductor for different instruments.
That's a great analogy, yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty powerful if you have, say, legacy systems or different teams using different tech stacks. You can integrate without needing massive rewrites.
That sounds incredibly adaptable. So you're not like locked into Ruby just because active workflow itself is Ruby?
Not at all. That's the core idea. The documentation mentions typical uses like generating reports periodically, checking S3 buckets for files, kicking off email campaigns when something happens.
So definitely geared towards business applications, not just, say, server management.
Absolutely. And it's not a no-code thing, not drag and drop. Developers would likely build the agents.
Right.
But it does provide a UI for managing and monitoring the workflows. So non-technical stakeholders can still see what's going on. Plus, it has a strong focus on its API, meaning you can plug it into other systems.
Interesting. And for people who follow open source, the docs mention it started as a fork of another project, Huginn. What was the reason for that split?
Yeah, the main drivers seem to be wanting to focus specifically on those business use cases we talked about, really push the API and the polyglot angle, and maybe aim for a slightly more streamlined code base than Huginn.
So a deliberate shift in focus.
Pretty much, laser focused on integrating diverse tech for business workflows.
Okay, let's switch gears then. Runbook.
Yeah.
The name itself makes you think of like a checklist, a manual for systems.
That's a really good way to put it. It gives you a DSL, a domain-specific language written in Ruby.
Okay, a DSL.
Right. It lets you write down your operational procedures step by step using Ruby syntax. So it's like codifying your standard operating procedures, but in a way the system can understand and execute.
So turning the manual into code, basically.
Exactly. And what's really interesting, I think, is its focus on gradual automation.
Gradual automation. How does that work? Is it like doing bits at a time?
Yeah, precisely. It's not designed for this big bang, automate everything at once approach. You might start by just using Runbook to document the steps for, say, deploying a server. Just write them out in the DSL.
Okay, so just the steps first.
Right. Then later, you can start adding the actual commands that perform those steps. And crucially, it has this nuke mode.
Nuke, like no operation.
Exactly. You can run the whole runbook, and it'll tell you exactly what commands it would have run on which servers, but without actually doing anything.
Oh, wow. That sounds incredibly useful, like a dry run.
A massive safety net, especially, when you're dealing with production systems or anything critical.
Yeah, absolutely. That nuke mode alone sounds like a killer feature. The docs also mention remote execution via SSH kit. Dynamic control flow.
Right. So the runbook isn't just linear. It can make decisions based on the outcome of previous steps. Like, if this command fails, then do this instead.
And resumability. If something breaks midway.
Huge benefit. If a step fails, you can fix the problem, then tell Runbook to pick up right where it left off. You don't have to restart the whole hour-long process,
That saves a ton of time and frustration.
Definitely. And it integrates with Tmux for managing terminal sessions, which is handy for complex interactive stuff. Plus, the DSL itself is extendable.
Meaning you can add your own custom commands or logic.
Yep. You can build your own actions tailored to your specific tools or environment.
It sounds really solid for standardizing those repetitive but crucial sysadmin tasks. The docs are clear, though. It's not trying to be like Ansible or Chef.
Correct. That's a key point. It's not really configuration management. It's more about orchestrating a sequence of actions, maybe across different tools or systems that might not fit neatly into a pure config management model.
So it fills a gap between manual processes and full configuration management.
I think that's the sweet spot, yeah. Providing a structured, auditable, repeatable way to execute those operational procedures.
Okay. On to number 3, danger. The tagline is great. Stop saying you forgot to in code review. Anyone who's done code reviews felt that one.
Oh yeah, totally resonates. So Danger plugs into your CI process continuous integration, your automated build and test pipeline.
Right, like Jenkins, GitHub Actions, that sort of thing.
Exactly. And it automates those common, often tedious code review checks.
Yeah.
It lets the team basically write down their rules, their code review etiquette, and Danger enforces it automatically.
So it's like a bot reviewer.
Kind of, like a super fast, tireless assistant reviewer who checks the mundane stuff before a human even needs to look.
So things like checking if I remembered to update the changelog, or link the pull request to the Jira ticket.
Precisely those things. You can figure rules for your team. Does the PR title follow our format? Does the description link to an issue? Are there any obvious anti-patterns we want to flag? Did someone forget to add tests for new code? Danger can check all that.
It highlights build artifacts, too. What's that about?
Yeah, like if your build process generates a file, maybe an APK for an Android app, Danger can comment on the PR with a direct link to download it. Makes testing easier.
That's neat. The docs mention it providing glue and having a plugin system. What's the glue part?
The glue is Danger's ability to connect different pieces of information. It pulls metadata about the pull request, what files changed, who wrote it, the commit messages, and gives you a framework, using Ruby, to write rules based on that data.
And the plugins.
That's where a lot of power comes from. The community can create reusable sets of checks. So you don't have to write your own check for common things like, say, checking JavaScript code style, or looking for leftover console.log statements. You can often just grab a plugin.
So even though Danger itself is Ruby, it works on projects in other languages.
Absolutely. As long as it runs in a CI environment where Danger can get the necessary context about the code changes, the project's language doesn't really matter.
This seems like it could seriously improve code review efficiency. Let the humans focus on the actual logic, the architecture.
Exactly. Not on whether someone remembered to tick a box or update a file. It provides immediate feedback to the developer too, often before a reviewer even sees the PR.
Faster feedback loops, more consistency. Sounds good.
It really helps bake team standards into the workflow automatically.
Okay, so let's try and quickly summarize these 3. We had ActiveWorkflow, that's the orchestrator, right? For diverse, language-agnostic agents doing business tasks.
Yep. The polyglot conductor?
Then Runbook. That's the structured, step-by-step approach focused on safety and gradual automation for system operations.
Your codified executable checklist with safety nets like Newt mode.
And finally, Danger, the automated code review assistant living in your CI pipeline, enforcing team rules.
The etiquette enforcer, freeing up humans for harder problems.
It's really interesting seeing these different angles on automation. What stands out to you as particularly compelling about them?
Well, for ActiveWorkflow, that polyglot nature is huge. In many real-world companies, you do have different tech stacks. Being able to bridge them is a big plus.
Yeah, I agree. And for Runbook, I keep coming back to that Nuke mode. That safety aspect, being able to preview changes, is just so critical for ops work. Look before you leap.
Definitely. And with Danger, I think the customization is key. Every team has its own little quirks and standards. Danger lets you codify your team's culture, not just some generic best practice.
It's pretty cool that all 3 are Ruby-based and open source. Shows the strength and versatility there.
Absolutely. Community-driven, adaptable tools.
So if you're listening and thinking, where could automation help me? It's probably worth checking out the docs for these on GitHub. ActiveWorkflow, Runbook, Danger. See if one of these approaches clicks with the problem you have.
Yeah, it could be a really good starting point. Could save a lot of time, reduce manual drudgery.
Which leads to maybe a final thought to chew on. Think about one specific task. Just one thing that's repetitive, maybe error-prone, takes up too much time for you or your team.
Right, what's that one thing?
Could you see active workflow maybe coordinating the different systems involved? Or could Runbook give you a safe, step-by-step way to automate it? Or maybe Danger could just make sure it always gets done right during development.
Focusing on that one task might be the perfect way to start your own deeper dive into which of these automation tools could actually make a difference for you.